Whoa, that didn't sound great. Okay. Can everybody hear me up on here? Give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear my audio. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me from here. What's up, Brian Stowe? What's going on, Gridiron? Hey, Derek, can you hear me up in there? Hopefully I fixed this up here. Yeah, let me make sure that I fix it up. What's going on, Gridiron? Okay, great. Great. All right. Hey, Derek, can you hear me up in there? Okay, so I'm sure you guys probably have heard not a whole lot from me, but what's going on, Gridiron? Okay, great. All right. But here's the thing. You could tell the energy that I'm feeling from all of this because I'm just ready for this season. I really, really am. So this team's ready for anything. I am seriously ready for the trench warfare that this Chargers team is really going to end up playing at. And at this very moment, oh, there's an echo. Hold up. Let's see. Yeah, there's two sources up on here. Hold on. See, there's the audio and then this. I just want to make sure that I got the sound up on this one right. This. Okay, that's desktop. Okay, so I probably won't need this. I just want to make sure that I got the sound up on this one right. This. Okay, that's desktop. Okay, so I probably won't need this. I just want to make sure that I got the sound up on this one right. This. Why is that? Okay, that's desktop. Okay, so I probably won't need this. I just want to make. Why am I getting this echo? Hold on. Sometimes you gotta love technical difficulties on this thing. No. Okay. Is it gone now? Okay. Yeah, I actually had it on the YouTube tab right up on this one. All right. Yeah, it's just up and on the YouTube stream. That's why I have it up on two streams. Okay, perfect. All right. So anyway, now that we got the technical difficulties, my sincere apologies, everybody off here. But you could just tell as my muted self was just absolutely just fired up with this season. I'm just really excited about what this new look Chargers team is going to look like come tomorrow because I just need to see what the run game is going to look like with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. I want to see how this defense with how Jesse Minter really, really, really plays upon this whole thing. Thank you so much, Hefe. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you so much, Gridiron. I saw Gage up in there. Gage, welcome in. Welcome in, everybody. Bolt up, everyone. I want to see your guys' high voltage here up into the chats. Like, share, subscribe. We're on the road to 1K here on this channel. You guys know what to do. But yeah, this I know a lot of people are very bummed out about Herbert, but here's the thing though, is that Herbert's injury, I just saw a snippet of him taking throws. And so So he's looking good. Like the arm is fine, and I know that the foot injury and everything has everybody concerned. But understand one thing with like plantar fasciitis is that at least this was a partial. It was a very small partial tear. So with Herbert this year, and what's kind of funny is that I actually saw this from a couple of really good trusty resources, and of course one of our good guys, the director himself, actually found a snippet on a comment that was explaining about like what Jim Harbaugh was all about, and even at the time when he was up in Michigan. So the thing that was really interesting to point out is that Jim Harbaugh literally calluses all of his guys. They go through a ton of these injuries where these aren't the types of injuries that people think that they are. These are the kind that only makes a player stronger. So the thing I have about Justin Herbert is that even with that foot, I think he's going to be okay. I know it'll kind of be lingering here and there, that some people believe it might end up changing the trajectory of his play, but I honestly do think that Justin Herbert, he's going to be fine, and I think Jim Harbaugh is callousing him to be like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I think this is where you finally are going to see him unlock his full potential. So there's no doubt in my mind that I feel like Jim Harbaugh and what he's done throughout his entire coaching career and just what it stands for. Like, this guy's going to show you, going to see him why he's one of the best. And which is why it's crazy to me to believe and think that he's not going to be very impactful coming the season. You know, and many people still have doubts on the Chargers, all because why? Because they finished up with 5 wins and were the 5th overall pick in the season, like in the draft. Like, what do you have left to really, like, what do you have left to really kind of speculate with Jim Harbaugh? Because I believe in the guy. I know, Brian, and like, this is the thing. It doesn't matter which foot that it is. It's going to be lingering. Like, it doesn't matter the left foot or the right foot. That thing is going to be hurting. It's going to be lingering, and you already know it. So the thing about plantar fasciitis, because it's the thicker ligament on your foot. And the thing about it is that if you completely tear that thing, it's like it feels a lot like you're walking on needles. It's the worst feeling ever. Like you'd be like irritated to even walk. So, which is why that I think that the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh and even Justin Herbert themselves have been taking the precautions to ensure that he's not going to completely tear like that ligament. So, understand one thing is that Harbaugh is really going to toughen up this team because they need to. They've been playing cute for so long that the times of just not showing up 110%, giving up on a bunch of crucial plays is over. It's a new look defense. Like, people are excited about this. So which is why that I'm like, I just think that the Chargers and the feel and the look that they have right now is one I'm excited that I cannot wait for the season to start. Really can't. And they addressed a lot. Now, listen, I have been hearing heckles, for those of you, I have been hearing immense amount of heckles from Raider fans. All of them. And it happens every year. Happens every year with Raider fans. Because Raider fans, what is the one thing that they do so well? They act delusional. They act that delusional. Like they are exactly the prime example of why the stock market goes to hell every time. It's up one day where like everything seems to be working right. Everybody's celebrating, all the rest of it. And then when things go bad, it goes downhill. And honestly, I feel like they are the bipolar girlfriend. That's what the Raiders are. They're like that bipolar girlfriend. You have no idea what they are feeling each and every single week. I love poking them. I have a bunch of friends of mine who I respectfully I appreciate with as far as their content and with the way that they break down like everything about all Raiders. And these people here, like the very, very few Raider fans that I do have very good connections with, like they're very smart. But for the rest of them up out there, give me a break. Go ahead. Take shots continuously. Like you are the AFC version of the Cowboys. You're constantly reminding me of past history from when? 1971? Like something? Why? Be in the right now. You know what you got right now? You ain't got no quarterback. Okay? All you got is Devontae Adams, and you don't even know if that guy's even going to stick around with this hell. You don't know that. So, yeah, I believe Herbert will be fine with no practice and with his new... Yes, I agree. I agree, Brian. I think he'll be fine. I think if you really had to break it down, because this is the heckle that I've been getting, and it's not even just from Raider fans, but this is the heckle that I've been getting from a ton of different fans of different teams, is that the Chargers have no weapons. The Chargers don't have this. The Chargers don't have that. They're going to be the same old chokers that they are. Really? What gives? Like, is that the best kind of heckle you have? Like, everybody looks at the Chargers like they are the redheaded stepchildren of the NFL. Of course. Because obviously, a lot of the irrelevance that the Chargers have had to deal with is because of our owner. You don't think I'm not aware of that? It finally took this year for Dean Spanos to actually have a competitive head coach, which is one of the reasons that we all should be excited about this. We all should be dying to see this thing succeed. And I believe it will. Most people don't think so. And you know what? That's fine. You could go ahead and continuously have reservations. You can go ahead and continue to doubt them. You could go ahead and doubt the Chargers, whatever. I don't care. But this idea that they are not going to be better than whatever kind of abysmal hell that was last year, considering that Justin Herbert was hurt throughout the entirety of the year and you just saw players give up on a coach who apparently can't even add 2 + 2? You had to get rid of it. You had to get rid of it. And that's the thing, Brian. I do believe that our defense is good this year. And the offense does need to stay healthy. But here's the thing you got to understand. When people say that Justin Herbert has no weapons, understand something. When Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, they both got hurt, Justin Herbert was already throwing to no-name guys that you didn't even pay attention to during preseason and even in camp. Like, any of you even know who Tyron Johnson or Jalen Guyton were? Of course you don't. Because they were no-name wide receivers in your eyes. But they produced. This team, and granted, offensive coordinator was different. We had Shane Steichen as our offensive coordinator. And they were 7th best offense in the league. That's how good it was. So I'm tired of hearing this that he has no receivers to throw to. It is absolutely crazy. Well, here's the thing, Brian. We actually do have depth in the O-line, and I'll tell you why. Because we've added Bradley Bozeman as our center. You've got Rashawn Slater at the left tackle. You got Zion Johnson, who you're hoping is really going to pop off here in another year. And then you also, Bozeman in the center. You've got Trey Pipkins, and you've got Jamari Salyer in the interior. So then you also have Joe Alt that you just picked as your number 5 pick in the draft to solidify the right tackle. And here's the thing. Here's what's the beauty about it. If Rashawn Slater got hurt again, then that means you can move Joe Alt to the left, put Pipkins at the right tackle, and you can put some Salyer right there in the right guard. And then here's another thing I'll give you. We've got Alex Leatherwood. Which, here's the thing. I'm not expecting Alex Leatherwood to make any sort of impact. You know what I expect him to be? I expect him to be an extra body. That's it. And I even hear this heckle and all the rest of it that you got Alex Leatherwood. Good luck with that. Why? Why should I even have to feel like it's good luck with that, bud? You never know. Jim Harbaugh, or maybe even better yet, we've got Nick Hardwick as one of our offensive line coaches. I'm more than confident in that. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying, Brian. Yeah, we do. We do have the best defensive ends. We've got really, really good defensive edge rushers. And the funny thing is that people are dismissing Bud Dupree that much, which is mind-boggling to me. Because here's the thing. Bud Dupree is no scrub. The guy last year in Atlanta had 6.5 sacks. Okay? It's better than when you have an edge rusher that you put up a whole lot of hype for, and this guy's putting up 2.5 sacks? The guy is obviously not becoming a threatening force. He's not that intimidating. So, yes, I would take somebody who's got at least 6.5 sacks as depth in our edge rushing position next to Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa and Thule, by the way, who had 10.5. You kidding me? People think that he's like a scrub. And I'm like, stop. This guy is no bum. He is very much familiarized with this organization. Very. So I don't want to hear it. But here's the thing I will get into. So with the defense looking the way that it is, so I'll tell you what. The Chargers know that they needed to have a better rushing defense. The rushing defense was absolutely atrocious in the last few years. They could not figure it out. It has been the kryptonite of this organization now for the last few years. So they go and address it. They go and get Poona Ford. And by the way, facing the Seattle Seahawks, Poona Ford was a former Seahawk in the past before he went to the Buffalo Bills. So my thing with this is that with what Jesse Minter is trying to do is he's trying to provide a run-stuffing defense up front. Because if you watch any of the highlights in Michigan, that is all of what his defense has been about. Stuff the run, make the wide receivers uncomfortable when you're playing them one-on-one on man coverages. That's what you should do. And boy, that joint practice against the Rams was unbelievable. And this is what's got me excited about it. Because the fact that we have I see you, Leo. I see you. But the thing about this is that we even have Morgan Fox still. We have now Justin Mboigbe, one of our D linemen that we got from Alabama. So all of this right now is it's trying to justify that our rushing defense was horrible, and then at the same time they're making improvements so that it's no longer horrible. So that's part of the reason that I just feel like this Chargers front line looks completely different. I watched a couple of rushing videos that they've had in practices. What Jesse Minter loves to play and what he did in Michigan is he loved to play a lot of that 4-3 defense, which is one that I like. And there are going to be some situations, I'm sure you're probably going to end up seeing 3-4s or 4-3s. You know, you're going to see a little bit of 3-4 defense, but it's not going to be that's not going to be as nuts and as crazy than what it once was. Because you cannot be able to stop a run when you're constantly playing 3-4 all the time. You got to stuff that run. And you know what's funny, and I've said this before, there were a couple of impactful players, and I'm sure a lot of you guys, all the Charger fans in this chat right now, would know exactly the guys I'm talking about that were very impactful. I felt like Justin Jones was impactful because I know that he complements a run-stuffing defense. I felt like Kaiser White, the way he was playing linebacker, and even for somebody who was not so much of a facilitator at all. Like a guy who was very instinctive to get after the ball, whomever had it. And that was one of the things that breaking it down, like we needed that. And unfortunately, they let him walk. Let him go to Philadelphia, be impactful in Philadelphia, and now he's in Arizona. I would also argue Drew Tranquill. I think the way that whole scenario was played out, like the guy had a great year, but they didn't want him back. Goes to Kansas City this past year, wins a ring with Patrick Mahomes, and of course you already know he's heckling out of his mind. And so I'm just like, it's just fuel of fire. And then you also heard of Uchenna Nwosu, who is on the team that we're going to be facing tomorrow. And I loved the guy, but it was very hard to keep somebody when considering the fact that we've got Khalil Mack, who took a step further at his age. But I loved Uchenna Nwosu. I felt like the guy had great, immense amount of pressure to get to the quarterback and was a guy that, like, at his age that's still young, provided a lot. And you know what's funny is that's why I'm very glad we made that up with Thule, because we needed somebody like that as an aggressive edge rusher. And so now we do. And there's a lot of expectations this year. Derwin James had an absolutely terrible year last year that you're hoping that with Jesse Minter, he's going to be a shutdown type secondary. And he's going to play hard. Joey Bosa, who missed time with an injury, and people are thinking he's sitting on stacks of his own. You're hoping that he actually plays better. You're hoping. The fact that a 33, going to be a 34-year-old, is outballing the 29-year-old is embarrassing. So that should be something to keep an eye on. But the fact that we were able to address the defense as we did, Poona Ford up front, Justin Mboigbe in the draft. We still retain Morgan Fox. And we have other options up front. And new young guys that can come in and step in as next man up mentality. The linebackers, Diane Henley is finally starting to get involved, which is what they should, the last Chargers coaching staff should have done. And it just pissed us all off that they never got any playing time for Diane Henley. I was excited to see what this kid did. Watched a lot of his highlights in college. The guy is that impactful, and he brings that much energy and juice to this organization and that defense. So then you bring back Denzel Perryman, little reunion. And like I said, had he been on the healthy side in the past, the guy was very impactful. The guy was a tackling machine. And it sucks that every time he kept suffering injuries. But he's back. He looks healthy. He looks invested and bought into this coaching staff. And I think he's a great voice for that linebacking position. And now Kenneth Murray's gone. Because Kenneth Murray was damn nowhere near being a facilitator. So that's why the Chargers went and drafted one of Jim Harbaugh's well-trusted Michigan linebacker, Junior Colson. And Junior Colson, and what Navarro Bowman has been able to say, is he plays to an extent that nobody has ever even thought of. He was one of the top linebackers in this draft. One of the tops. Next to the other linebacker that Green Bay got, Edgerrin Cooper. I think Junior Colson, you're going to see the distinct difference between him and Cooper. And honestly, I feel like Colson is the better option. And what you see from him is that he glues his eyes to the quarterback. Do you know how long it has been since the actual Chargers have had a facilitator at linebacker? It's been forever. We finally have it now. And Junior Colson looks like the real deal. What about our secondary? Asante Samuel Jr.? Yep, he's back. And he's got extra help. He's got Christian Fulton. And he's also got Tarheeb Still, and he's got Cam Hart. Cam Hart, I'm really excited about because watching him at Notre Dame and the type of leadership that he was a defensive captain over there. And he really helped out with that secondary at the time. And Notre Dame is big on their defense. They love their linebackers. They love their corners. So there's a very good chance Cam Hart is going to take a lot of people by surprise on that defense. And then there's Tarheeb Still from Maryland. I watched a lot of the highlights on him as well in Maryland. The guy does not let go of a receiver. Like, he just sticks to him. And it's a good thing, too, because Asante Samuel, I've been saying it, he had no help next to him as somebody that plays very, very good man-to-man coverage defense. Which is one of the things that really aggravated me at the time, but I also had a very trustworthy source that came out from the New England Patriots that had told me very good insights about the kind of game J.C. Jackson is and what he does. The guy sucks at man-to-man coverage. He is not a man-to-man type corner. He is only a facilitator and a cover corner. That's why he had 14 interceptions, or he had 11. Like, the guy absolutely, like, killed it for us. Absolutely killed it for the Chargers. Now we're having to pay dead cap money. This guy clearly was a horrid signing. And we're having to make up for it. But you know what? It's okay. Because in the end, we had only gotten improvements. Our secondary. Jasir Taylor back this year. Derwin James, you know. He's got to have a big bounce back year. And there's Alohi Gilman. Another very good safety there. And somebody who is ready to take big strides in 2024. Our defense is not a team to mess around with. It's really not. Jesse Minter is putting together a great defensive philosophy that is only going to help this organization. And Jim Harbaugh trusts him. Absolutely gives him a lot of that. So, just you wait and see. The guy is going to be on the guy is going to show you what he's all about. What he could possibly bring up onto the table. So, breaking down the game against the Seattle Seahawks, and I'll get to a little bit more of on Chargers talk as well. So breaking it down, I'll let you guys know exactly what the Chargers have. Week 1. So we'll get a chance to preview it here and see exactly who's in, who's out. So looking it up from our good friends up at Bolt Beat, here's the storylines that we got to end up monitoring from here. So according to one of our sources, for the first time during the Jim Harbaugh era, the LA Chargers will be in action tomorrow night against the Seattle Seahawks. Granted, this game means absolutely nothing as it is in the preseason, and there likely won't be very many starters who play. While the game may not mean anything in the grand scheme, it can still be meaningful for Charger fans. This is the first look of what this team will look like under Harbaugh, and there are going to be plenty of things to learn as a result. So here's the couple breakdowns from here. So number one, how Jesse Minter's defense compares to Brandon Staley. The Chargers are not going to have the usual starters out during the preseason game, but that does not mean fans won't learn about what this defense might look like. Jesse Minter followed Jim Harbaugh from Michigan to hopefully fix a defense that was broken under Brandon Staley. The second-year linebacker Diane Henley has already carried some water for Minter's defense, pointing out the fact that the defense is looking to confuse the other team rather than confuse itself. That feels like a huge step, and it really is. That defense was absolutely atrocious, and it definitely confused itself. It was just daunting to see this team, and the way that it ended up playing up on defense was absolutely embarrassing. So, of course, it won't look completely the same as when the entire starting unit is out there, but Charger fans can at least get an idea of how the scheme looks and where Jesse Minter puts emphasis as a coordinator. So that's the thing about Jesse Minter, and something that I do want to end up looking at and breaking down that makes sense for everybody. I'm going to look up Jesse Minter from his numbers and defensive schemes. So attacking the edge is one of his big things. And he's all about block destruction. So one thing to look at, okay, here we go. So NFL coverage trends from 2019 to 2023. So there was cover zeros, cover ones, cover threes, cover twos. The Q, the cover six, and then the two-man. So as of the averages, more teams all the way up to this play a lot more cover threes than you think. They play a lot of cover threes on defense. This is from everybody in the NFL. And the only worst that nobody plays is that two-man. So the Chargers' cover rates was definitely cover three, a lot more. And I'd say so it was 34%. And this is what Michigan played under Jesse Minter. So Jesse Minter's defense, this is what he plays majority of the time. He plays a lot of cover three. And I like it because cover three only just means that you've got facilitators out there in that secondary. And how that all works is because look at a lot of the receivers we have in the league right now with Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase. We got a lot of fast guys out there. And so this was the part of his of the grand scheme of things because the Fangio system was intrigued by the NFL. And the cover sixes the cover six usage has risen almost 3% points since 2019 to go along with quarters. So using a too high safety shell and post-snap coverage ratios have all been part of the diaspora of the Fangio philosophy. So Minter, I'm sure, Jesse Minter was very influenced by Vic Fangio's type defense, which is one of the things to keep in mind of. Now, what he stems from a new Ravens system that the newest Seattle Seahawks head coach, Mike Macdonald, that you'll see now, retooling it, in 21 with now the UMass head coach, Don Brown, and being let go by Harbaugh in 20, he hired the young coach off of his brother's staff, John, to come and fix the Michigan defense that had fallen to 118th and DFEI. And this was during the COVID-shortened season. So McDonald turned around that Wolverines defense and finishing 14th in DFEI. So a team in Michigan that was 118th and then finished 14th. That's very impressive from Mike McDonald's end. Very impressive. And one of the main changes within McDonald's philosophy from his counterpart, Wink Martindale, was to move away from the blitz-centric style that was quickly losing favor in the modern football. And like Don Brown, Martindale favored a high blitz rate with cover one behind it. So this was Michigan's defense. So they played a lot more cover threes. They then played quarters and then played cover ones. Those were the top three options. And then became the cover six and then the cover twos. So they did not like running a lot of cover twos from there. So with Jesse Minter, because he had previously worked with the Ravens and was currently at Vanderbilt as their defensive coordinator, in 22, the Michigan defense returned to the top 10 with cumulating finale of being the number one defense in the country, finishing with an undefeated national championship this last year. So Minter comes from a Baltimore background, which is incredible. And Baltimore has had a great track record of having a great defense. Much like even when you would watch Pittsburgh and many other great defensive teams, Jesse Minter looks like the real deal. And so here's the other narrative, though, too. Number 2, will Easton Stick play himself out of the backup quarterback job? Honestly, he would not. We watched a bunch of snaps in camp with Easton Stick, and he looked really bad. So that just means that they ended up bringing in Luis Perez from the UFL, who had 18 touchdowns, 4 picks, and completed at least up to like 67% of his throws. Had a QB rating of at least 95. That's pretty good for the UFL and for spring football. So the thing about what Luis Perez does and what I've seen from a lot of his snaps in practice is he is a guy that is very accurate and quick. And I think he works for this. I think he is very much meant for this. And because at this point, if you're watching Max Duggan and Easton Stick literally look terrible right now under this offense, that's a not a good thing. And Luis Perez, I have a feeling he might actually be in very good contention of getting that backup role to Justin Herbert. I do think so. So with Easton Stick, he was getting plenty of reps with the first team, and it was bad. Like throws were getting overthrown. There were throws that were quickly becoming turnovers. And he does not look that poised in the pocket. You know what I feel like? I feel like that if the Chargers go into this season and Easton Stick still being up on this roster, and if he was there in the back in that backup role, oh God. Remember the time when like the Chargers had Billy Volek at the time behind Phillip Rivers, and then there was Geno Smith behind him and Cardale Jones? Like, I felt like Billy Volek at least gave some sort of hope for the Chargers up at that point, but man, Easton Stick does not do it for me. This is why he's literally a hockey stick more than he is as a quarterback. But that's the reason that I think Luis Perez coming in and battling for that backup role to Justin Herbert is going to be so crucial, because if you look at it, there were over 60 quarterbacks who started all last season in the NFL alone. 60. Which means, and a lot of this goes back to when quarterbacks get paid the big bag. Because if you think about it, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, they all got the bag. But then what happened? Like Jalen Hurts, he was on a roll. He had his foot on the gas and then eventually took it off. Joe Burrow was not playing the best. He had like an 0-4 start. It was bad. And then eventually turned things around. But then in the end, Joe Burrow got hurt for the entirety of the year. The Chargers, they were having a mediocre start. Very mediocre under Brandon Staley. To the point that we lost to the damn Titans in week 3. A WTF game that we lost. Are you like, how in the world do you end up losing to the Tennessee Titans that way? Knowing damn well that Ryan Tannehill is not the same quarterback as he once was. He started regressing. And then you just have a head coach that just doesn't know what he's doing. And he's clearly out of his skis. And having Kellen Moore, who had a ton of successes and made the Dallas Cowboys' offense one of the top best in the league. So, in the end, like you just saw everything just unfold. And that's why I think bringing in Luis Perez is really going to bring a little bit more of sensibility. And at the same time, it's also going to give them very, very, very good awareness. And it's going to give them an option that they hope really succeeds for their backup role. Really hope so. Because, I mean, watching Easton stick, and even for as bad as that one game was against the Raiders, was one I don't want to repeat again. Not one. Not one time do I even want to, repeat this damn thing. So, the last one is just how ready are the Chargers rookies? Well, like I said, these guys that have been making some big-time strides, Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still, have been very, very impressive. Kamani Vidal, the running back from Troy, dude, that guy in practices and a lot of reps that he has been taking, that dude is crazy wicked. Guy's really good. And I honestly do think he's going to come up and climb up into a depth chart on that running back room to where he's going to really be like the replacement of Austin Eckler. He can run, he can catch, he can do all those things even at his size. So the Chargers never, ever, ever look away from who they really are and what they do better. So, but you got to think about it. Junior Colson, being that facilitator at linebacker and somebody to help stop the midfield passes that has always been torching the Chargers for years. You also have the second-round pick, Ladd McConkey, the wide receiver from Georgia, who I am very, very excited about. I also do think that it's going to come a point, it is going to be coming to a point where these guys have to take off. And Ladd McConkey is already making humongous strides to being Justin Herbert's number one receiver. Because as of right now, you've already heard Quentin Johnston is already starting at like the fourth, fifth option as wide receiver, which not a lot of us, we are absolutely cringing right now because we're hoping that he actually makes bigger strides this year, considering the fact that the rookie season was horrible. So you hope that Quentin Johnston is going to be the better version of himself than what he was last year. And then people disregard Josh Palmer, who was initially Mike Williams' replacement out of Tennessee. And then they also added DJ Chark, who also had a decent season. So just because our wide receivers don't look sexy on paper does not mean that Justin Herbert will not throw to any of these guys. He certainly will. Justin is the reason these receivers actually are better. He is the reason that they produce and they play so well. Okay, he inherited with Keenan Allen and he inherited with Mike Williams. Okay, I get it. But he made them better than what they are. And again, I'm not ready to see Keenan Allen in a Chicago Bears uniform. I really am not. And I'm also, not quite sure how I feel when it comes to Mike Williams with the Jets. I don't know how that relationship is honestly going to play. But I can guarantee you one thing. Just because it does not look great up on paper does not mean that Chargers offense is never, ever going to produce. So, you could go ahead and have that reservation, but in the end, it's not going to matter, considering the fact that Justin Herbert has already thrown to no-name receivers. All right? So we know this. And I'm just going to get a look at the Chargers week 1 list real quick. Because I want to see who's starting and who's not. All right, so the outlining plans, and this is what Jim Harbaugh's plan that he's got. So the plan for Saturday is Jim Harbaugh will grace an NFL sideline for the first time as a Chargers head coach, of course. Everybody is excited for when he finally touches that NFL field for the first time in years, since he'd last been in San Francisco. So I'm excited about that. I really, really am, because seeing Jim Harbaugh in the NFL just gives you really, really good vibes again. Because it just reminisces so much about what he's been about for years in the league. You know? So that's one thing. Even if it's just an exhibition game, a wide smile crossed Harbaugh's face when he was asked what he was looking forward to the most. He said, "I just can't wait to watch our guys compete in the game and just to have at it. That feeling doesn't get much better than that." Oh yeah, he's been waiting for this for a long time. This is his thought, is he has an idea of what starters will play, what starters won't play, and how much some of the starters will play. We have a good game plan. We have a good idea of that. As of right now, we are ready to roll. And he also said that the starters, Khalil Mack, okay, so here we go. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack are obviously not going to play. So they will not be playing tomorrow against the Seattle Seahawks, which is fine. I'm okay with that. Gives him time, gives, both these guys time, to really go over more and more defensive schematics. So those two will not play. A group that includes the running backs, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, and Justin Herbert is still in a walking blue. They will not play. So that also means that Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are also not going to be up on the field at all tomorrow either. So I'm just going to look at the Chargers depth chart and see exactly what we've got. At least to get a good idea to seeing exactly who's going to get more playing reps and what we should look at and evaluate. Because with those running backs out, only means a couple things. All right. So let's look at, because I'm really, really curious about this. Because I have a feeling, I just really, 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 really have a feeling that if we're going to see a lot of Kaimani Vidal, I really hope that I get a chance to see this dude feast on the field tomorrow. Considering the fact that, the Seahawks have a defensive coordinating coach with Mike McDonald, I just hope that, this is going to be one of those games that you're going to watch and see trench warfare in front of you be tested from the Chargers. This is one of their first tests. I know preseason, nobody gives a rip about. Nobody cares about this. But this is going to be very good to watch. So I have a feeling we're going to see Elijah Dotson. And I do think we're also going to see Kaimani Vidal. But my other question, though, too, is what in the world are they going to end up doing about Isaiah Spiller? Because that is one other guy that we are also trying to see what could we possibly get out of him. Because, this is really going to help with the running back situation. I think it's also going to bring up a lot of sense. So, as you see right now, you have J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. They're not playing. Elijah Dotson, Jarrett Patterson, Isaiah Spiller, and you also have Kaimani Vidal. So there's going to be 4 running backs that we're going to get a chance to see, and they're going to potentially compete for that 3rd and that 4th running back role. And I have a feeling it's going to be potentially Dotson if Spiller does not end up producing well, and then also Kaimani Vidal, that rookie from Troy. So it's going to be some pretty good, it's probably going to be some very, very, very good insights. And I also am hoping that we have a situational back that can really help us when we need a first down. We need an important score in the red zone. And somebody that's obviously going to be coming out like a bullet out of a gun, bursting through that defensive line. That's my hope. Isaiah Spiller, I can tell you, is kind of on this thin line. Because we didn't get a chance to see a whole lot of his full development. And he's been in, this is his 3rd year in the league now. So whatever the case may be, I just hope that he really, really shows up. And you know what's funny is because we felt the same way about Josh Kelly when he came in here. Josh Kelly, we all had speculation. When I first broke him down when he came in, when he came into the scene out of UCLA, I said, you know what? That dude actually could look like another version of Melvin Gordon, but at least Josh Kelly holds on to the ball. So that's my hope. But if things do not end up looking good, I think Isaiah Spiller could be out. And which is really sad because this dude, big size, out of Texas A&M, a guy that really can shake off a lot of tackles, we just have not seen the best of production with them. So, and Elijah Dotson has shown more of those impacts more than Isaiah Spiller has. So I think Spiller might end up getting cut from there. And then we're probably going to end up seeing, we're for sure seeing a lot of our wide receivers. We're seeing DJ Chark. We're seeing Darius Davis. We're seeing Simi Fehoko, which I've actually have seen at least a couple of real good spurts from him. He looked pretty impressive. Quentin Johnston, that we're hoping actually ends up picking himself up off the ground and what we've seen in his rookie year. Ladd McConkey, that that I really am going to get a look at, because I just have to see what Greg Roman really does with this receiving core, because considering the fact that Ladd McConkey is a guy that really does make a lot of explosive routes, and he's a guy that can cut in and really just confuse a lot of the defensive secondaries, is one that I'm really going to be excited to watch against Seattle. Considering Seattle has very, very good, they've got very good secondaries from Tariq Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, and a couple others. And Seattle's no joke. And even when you looked at the Ravens defense with Mike McDonald, he loved playing a lot of those real good plays in the secondary with the safeties and the corners. So it wasn't only just about like moving around with like the edge rushers and all. It was a whole defensive package as a whole. And then there's Josh Palmer, and then there's Brendan Rice. So thing I will tell you is that Brendan Rice was really, really good. Brendan Rice throughout has had a lot of over-the-shoulder catches. He is now starting to show you that he is going to take serious spurts come the 2024 season. Like, his dad is getting involved with training him up in the best way possible. The late round pick, which gives him extra juice and motivation to prove a lot of doubters wrong. And you have to also consider this. It was one of Caleb Williams' one of his dangerous weapons, next to a couple of them. And so I think watching the receivers in this one will be fun, because I can get a good idea who our top priority options are going to look like. I really am excited to see that. Tight ends, Will Dissly, Hayden Hurst. By the way, we also have Ben Mason and Donald Parham and Stone Smart. So there are going to be like points where, because I think the tight end position is going to be that extra lineman, which is why that I was happy with the Will Dissly move, because at least this guy can block and this guy can catch. He can make a play when you need one, when the defensive coverages really start to come in. So Will Dissly, I think, is going to provide a lot of very good protection and is a guy that is really going to show up in a bunch of those areas. So, and then when you have Hayden Hurst, considering the fact that like he's not a overly producing tight end, but what he is at this point is he is a very good secondary option when all else fails. So I mean, I'm happy of the idea. I am happy of the fact that at least with Hayden Hurst, like, we could have a secondary receiver and we could play a lot of different situational plays up on offense. And then, of course, Donald Parham, a red zone threat. Yeah, I think this will be, there's going to be a lot set in this game. I know it doesn't matter because the fact that it's preseason and all the rest of it. But Herbert, Bosa, Mack, and then Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, they will not be playing. So at least we know, we have an idea that it's going to be a full roster from here. It's going to be a full roster. Now, another point that we also took away from here is finally Easton Stick shined at practice. So Harbaugh said that Easton Stick is going to get the start. So he will start it off, and then it's going to follow Max Duggan, Casey Bowman, and Luis Perez. So that's how it's going to be. Stick will get the start, and he will initiate it, and then Duggan will come in. We'll see exactly, because I just don't know what – I just don't really know what kind of Max Duggan I'm going to get. Clearly, I'm not going to get the same Duggan from TCU. It's not happening. But I would be much more excited about Luis Perez, considering the fact that he had such good show-ups in practice. Like, the guy threw very accurately. He's a guy that clearly played a lot more than, like, he played much better and cleaner in that pocket than what Stick and Duggan did in the last couple days. So Easton is starting the game, I think, somewhere around a quarter and a half. So that's about 20 to 30 plays. Then Max will come in and we'll be able to get to see Casey and Luis in there as well. That's the plan. So Harbaugh had plenty of praises for these quarterbacks after the group looked sharper than what last week did. So this was kind of the sum up. So Easton Stick opened practice with a beautiful deep ball to Quentin Johnston for a 40-plus yard gain on the very first play of team drills. Also followed up with a pass to Stone Smart that picked up 20 yards before converting on third down to DJ Chark. Stick later had a pair of touchdown passes from Simi Fehoko in the red zone, and the second of which was an incredible acrobatic grab in the corner of the end zone. So he is developing that kind of relationship with Simi Fehoko on two of those spots. So, and then this one was acrobatic into the red zone. That was actually a very impressive play by Simi Fehoko. So he's showing that he could definitely be, he could definitely be that guy. I think really, really, really be somebody into consideration that could be used in a lot of these options. I'm serious. I think this guy really, really can be that kind of option here. It was their practice, I thought, today. The quarterbacks, that group, that's there now. Really encouraging in a lot of way. It was one of the best practices for the whole team. So thank God that at least the quarterbacks actually showed up this week in practice. Because that was god awful. It really made me scared about the whole thing. It made me so scared about the whole damn thing that I just don't know with what exactly that I'm gonna get with quarterback. Considering that Justin Herbert is hurt. Options at the returner. So Darius Davis did not participate on Thursday's practice. And while it remains to see if the Bolts' lethal returner will play tomorrow, the Chargers will have other options. They'll have Jalen Gill and they have Elijah Dotson. So this is another thing too, is that when you look at Elijah Dotson, because like I said, I love his feet. I absolutely love his feet work. The guy's quick. Guy has absolutely the lethal tools for him to be a very good running back and at the same time be actually a pretty good option as a returner. In case if something was to happen with Darius Davis. Because you got to have plenty of speed at the returner. And now with the new kickoff returns, Darius Davis, I think, is going to really love this. And I think, too, with having Elijah Dotson, guy's going to be great. So, also Jarrett Patterson was also getting some kickoff return reps as well. So, it'll be the first live experience for this team, both covering and returning the NFL's altered kickoff ruling. So, that in itself is going to be one that many of us Charger fans are hoping will be fun to watch. And I think I just think that the one thing, here we go. So one thing to consider. So looking at the Seattle Seahawks, because what the starters, so it's clear that Geno Smith is not going to play. So it's going to be Sam Howell against PJ Walker. And to be honest with you, I have a feeling Sam Howell is going to perform better than PJ Walker. Which I could tell you, I like PJ and I liked, some of the things that he's gone through. But I just totally think that when it comes to quarterback build and decision-making and all the rest of it, Sam Howell was given a different card than where he was up in Washington. So I think, and that's the one thing too, is that Sam Howell, you got to realize he was the most sacked quarterback in the league. So he shrinks a bunch when the pocket is collapsing. It looks horrible. So that's my whole deal. I think that when facing against both those guys, I know PJ Walker, he's accurate to a T, but I don't see him as being like that deep ball threat guy. So I think there's going to be some of that. You're going to watch a lot of our corner options really play a lot of man-to-man coverages, but that's going to be something that even our facilitators at the linebacking position, our facilitators have to consider. They have to consider. You'd have to really play up to these guys to where even if you get a short pass, either if it's up the middle or if it's up and on the right or the left corner, that you have to be able to cover all those spots. And so we'll get a chance to see them against Sam Howell that we know. And Sam Howell can run. Sam Howell is mobile. He can run out the pocket. He can extend plays. And that's something that I think the Chargers really have to consider as well. They have to put up enough immense amount of pressure. And at the same time, it's also going to help them in these positions and in a lot of these options, because this is where a lot of these hard-nosed plays are going to start to come from. So you're going to see that. And I think, Seattle's a pretty good example of that. Now, the Chargers in last year's preseason go around. I'll bring it up from here. So the Chargers preseason record last year nope, that wasn't it. So those were all regular season. Where was the preseason games? Nope. That's not it. All right, let's see. Okay, so preseason, they were 2-1. So they were actually really decent last year. So they actually played, because last year they started off with the LA Rams, and man, did they give them hell. Between Bryce Perkins and Stetson Bennett, the Rams were not moving the chains as well. They were not doing it. But we did see a bunch of, like, at that time where we had Eric Kendricks, we had a couple of other, defensive pieces. The team looked like it was, like, getting better. So 34-17 was the final score of that first one. And then the second one was against the New Orleans Saints. That's where they lost in SoFi. They lost 22-17. And it was in fact like a very, very, very hard game. It really was, because the fact that they kept trying to move the chains as much as they possibly could, and they could not. And they kind of got stuck in a rut. And then they play San Francisco in the last game, and they win that one 23-12. And now, considering like their backup pieces, I mean, it was what it was. So I think last year's preseason at 2-1 was not bad. But my only thing is, this preseason, I know nobody cares about this stuff, but Jim Harbaugh, I'm going to watch a lot of his game management, his clock management. I'm also going to watch a lot more of just like how does he engage, and how does he really come up in the clutch when it matters? Because if that is something that he executes well, then that's the Jim Harbaugh that I remember from San Francisco. And the same Jim Harbaugh that's aggressive at Michigan. So that's something to really consider. But I think you really are going to get a great look at this Chargers team. And I feel like, because with the options that we have, and this is why we are going to have such a good look at what the depth of the Chargers is going to look like from almost every position we have. Now, I'd like to evaluate a little bit more into the defensive front. I also would like to evaluate a little bit more on the linebacking position, because I just think what we got with the corners and the safeties from the joint practice against the Rams was so good. And then the fact that Tarheeb still took one interception and ran it all the way down on the end zone for a touchdown. So Jesse Minter definitely plays a lot of collapsing defense on the front. And he plays a lot of very good man-to-man coverages to where it's so uncomfortable for opposing wide receivers. I think you're going to get a very good look at that. So my takeaways in this game is I'm going to see if Jim Harbaugh still has that NFL touch. And I believe he does. I'm also going to look at how good is Jesse Minter. I mean, a guy from a Michigan standpoint defense, and also from a Ravens defense. That's one you're going to love to see. So keep in mind, the other thing that I'm also going to get the takeaway is obviously depth in important positions. I'm going to watch the offensive line depth. I'm going to watch the wide receiver depth. I'm also going to watch our running back depth. I think those are the ones that I definitely got to see. And, of course, our defensive front seven. Because I want to see that even if, like, let's say one of our core guys does go down, I want to know, how does Jesse Minter really pick himself up? How does he readjust? And I think that's the serious question. But if I had to give a final score prediction between the Chargers and the Seahawks, I think, with what we're going to see out of Mike Macdonald, I know as a new head coach, because these are two new head coaches going at it. I think you're going to see how both of their schemes are really going to work together. And you're just going to get an idea of how each other they're going to play with their secondaries, how exactly they're going to set their secondaries up. But you are going to see that lethal 4-3 that Jesse Minter plays. And then he's also going to utilize a couple of other defensive schematics as well to really stop the run, really get pressure at the quarterback, and at the same time, shut down defense from the secondary. That's the part that I think a lot of people are going to look at. New kickoff rules, that's the part that I think a lot of people, when you start to look at like the kickoffs, I don't mind them. I don't mind the kickoffs at all. I think the kickoffs, you're still getting the kick returners to run the ball back. They're still running the ball. So I know some people kind of have mixed emotions about it. I don't. I think you really are going to see those options from Darius Davis if he does play tomorrow. And then you also are going to see the option from Elijah Dotson. So there are plenty of options. And then you also got Cornelius Johnson that can come in as a very good special teamer. So there's plenty of options up in there, and then I think that's exactly what Sam Ficken, the special teams coordinator, is really going to work on. So I think this will be a pretty interesting game. If I had to get a takeaway of a final score, I think the Chargers really do come away with it, because knowing Seattle with the starters that they may end up sitting and kind of the depth that they have, I think this is going to be one of those trench warfare games. Knowing Seattle with Mike Macdonald coming from a Baltimore defense and coming from a lot of these other different kind of schemes that he's played, I think this is going to be Jim Harbaugh's real test. This is one of his real tests. First week ever back on the football field in the NFL. I think Jim's going to succeed. I think Jim, he's been waiting for this moment. He's been taking this as a breath of fresh air, taking it every way that he can. And I think that's the part we're really going to be excited for. But my final score prediction, I think the Chargers end up coming away with this. I think it's probably going to be around the ballparks of at least 27-23. Because I do think you're going to see a mixture of the offense really play its way around. But I do think there's going to be some parts of it that I'm afraid it may look a little stagnant for the backup quarterbacks. But do not be afraid, because the fact that Luis Perez will get a chance to see him in-game reps and see how he adjusts from UFL play to the NFL play. If those speeds are at least similar or they're very distinct and different. So I would love to see that. I would also love to see that our running game, I think Kaimani Vidal, he's somebody that I think I really am excited to see how explosive this dude is. I'd also think that our defense, with how they're going to play against the run, and how they're also going to play against certain passing situations is also one you cannot end up, you cannot disregard as well. So something to keep in mind, guys. But I'm excited about this team. I'm excited about this game. So thank God football's back. Thank God football is back. Like I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see Jim Harbaugh back on the field. I'm so excited to have football back in preseason. And so, man, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for it. This is one that you and I both know. Has Jim Harbaugh kept or lost his touch? That is the serious question. So let's do it. But appreciate all of you guys for being here on this live stream. We need to have more up on it. This was the inaugural live stream of the Chargers Syndicate, breaking down our Week 1 prediction in preseason against the Seattle Seahawks. Hope you guys are so excited for Charger football to be back, because I am. Like, I'm telling you, I've got a storm that's rolling in. There's thunder. There's lightning that's crashing. And I need to have high voltage in this chat. Serious high voltage. Shout out to everybody up into the chat. Alan, Leo, Brian, Hefe, Gridiron, Blitz, Gage, everybody. I need high voltages in this chat. Show off your high voltage. Bolt up for me. How freaking excited are you? How excited are you of Charger football? For real. How excited are you? I want to hear it all. Like it up. Share it up. Let's get Charger fans amped up right now. Let's do it. Appreciate all of you guys. Love every one of you guys. Continue to bolt up, because this is Charger football season. And you know what I hear? I hear that there is a serious storm coming in 2024. So let's do it, guys. Let's make it happen. Appreciate all of you guys. Like, subscribe, hit the bell button. Keep up to date on more Charger Syndicate content. Appreciate all of you guys. I will have a recap of the game as well. So you guys do not want to end up missing out upon that. See you guys later. And always remember to bolt up. And good luck to our boys as Charger football is back and ready to roll for Week 1. The Jim Harbaugh era begins now. So let's do it, guys. Appreciate all of you guys, and I will see you soon here on Charger Syndicate. Take care, you guys, and always remember to bolt up.